Cool. All right. Welcome to Past Data Summit. How are you guys doing? Did folks go to the keynote? Yes. Pretty cool. What are you most excited about? Dark mode? No one online has heard this before. So just a heads up on how this episode goes, how this session goes. My name is Anna Hoffman. I lead a show called Data Exposed. Some people might have heard of it. You got some swag on the way in. We also have some swag somewhere up front, some t-shirts somewhere. If you're interested, this episode is being streamed live to YouTube and Twitch and our Twitter. And we hope that you'll get excited about Data Exposed if you have fun with us today. This is a really chaotic session, but we do release a lot of episodes every week. We talk to everyone on the product team, MVPs, and we try to show you guys what's going on and what's new. So with that, we're going to get right into the show. And I'm super excited because I have lots of people from the product group here. Like I said, it's going to be chaotic. We're going to bring a lot of people up. We're going to talk about the latest news. And the way this works is this is our 2024 year in review. So this is your one-stop shop to learn everything that's happened across SQL Server and Azure SQL from January to now. If you want to tune in later, this is the AKA link, aka.ms/SQL AMA Live. If you want to text your friends and say I'm being streamed live, you can also do that. And yeah, if you have questions, you can go to the AKA link, you can go to this link. If you're watching online, you can go to that link and you can give us your questions wherever you're watching from. I will say I'm not looking at questions today like I usually do, but if we happen to have time at the end, we'll take any questions from the stream as well as anyone in the audience. Last thing before we go, this is the one link you'll really want, and just remember it. Anytime you go to aka.ms/news update, you will find the latest blog that I have posted with the latest news. So this can be your one link you can take a look at whenever. It'll stay like this for a while, and hopefully after Ignite, we'll have some more announcements to bring in. Now we're going to get right into the chaos, so get ready. And let's have some fun. So to kick us off, we're going to start with Azure SQL Database and AI, and I'm going to bring up Muazma, who leads the team. Thanks so much, Muazma.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone. Good morning.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of updates in the Azure SQL Database space this year so far, and I just wanted to start by touching on a few that were really exciting to me, and then obviously we want your take and even tell us like what was announced today and maybe what's coming. So to me, the things that have kind of been standout this year for Azure SQL Database is, of course, we announced Copilot in Azure, in the Azure Copilot, as well as natural language SQL in the query editor in the Azure portal. Exciting. Super exciting. And then the other one that stands out to me is the serverless auto pause delay from 60 minutes to 15 minutes. This is huge.
That's huge, yes, that's awesome. So for Azure SQL Database, what we are always working towards is faster, cheaper, and cost-effective, like cheaper and cost-effective and bigger, right? So if you have more data, we need to support that. So a lot of announcements in that. Definitely check out Elastic Pools. If you have multiple hyperscale databases that you want to actually scale, check that out as well. Some more announcements. So we have a few slides. We have been doing a lot of work in this space. Shrink for hyperscale, that's a great one in preview right now. Advanced maintenance notifications. A lot of you come to us and ask about, like, can I get an advanced notification when you're doing maintenance? So we now have that. There is the license-free standby replica. So if you want to do replication, read and write isolation, that's a great one. And DB Compact 160 as default.
Yes, we're so excited that this has landed. Elastic Jobs went GA. Everyone says, finally, finally.
Yeah, that has been in preview for some time. So there's a lot here. Of course, I cannot go through everyone. We do have a session that you can go to. But I do want to share what we have announced today in the keynote. These are the 3 announcements. If you go to the Rec Community blog today, you will find more about that. Really, really, really amazing work from changing kind of 100 terabyte to 128 terabytes. So you can bring more data to hyperscale.
Even bigger, like you said.
Yes, and faster log rates, so faster insertions. You have multiple performance testing we have done there, and then continuous priming for your scale.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so it means like when we bring the replica back, right, from any standby, it's much faster. So that's the simplest definition I can give.
Awesome, cool, great. Yeah, so it's great to see what's happening in the Azure SQL database space. I understand there's more we're going to talk about in the AI space.
Who's excited about AI?
Who's excited about AI?
Are you tired of it? One or the other. So as you saw in the keynote, and then we have been talking about in all our channels, we want to bring AI to data because we do believe that the data gravity is really, really important. So you have already your most mission-critical data currently in Azure SQL, SQL Server, MI, all of these options that we have out there. So we are announcing today in public preview native vector types. You can go in today, create a vector data type today. So,
awesome.
And vector functions, so you can find similarity search, do semantic search, hybrid search, with all the famous and popular frameworks, including LangChain, which is an open source one, Semantic Kernel, which is also an open source one by Microsoft, NEF Core, and many others. So you can build applications that can scale and can do a lot of interesting things like building chatbots, document mining, a lot of those things.
Yeah, I want to give your team a shout out. I put 2 links on this page. Again, they'll also be in the blog, SQL AI and SQL AI samples. Muazma's team has done a phenomenal job of bringing us with them on this AI journey. Like personally, I've learned so much about the AI space, and you guys continue to help keep us on our toes, but keep up.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to learn these days. And then, as Anna already mentioned, Azure Copilot, right? So we are getting a lot of great feedback from you as your customers to actually try it out, the self-help experience as well as the natural language to SQL experiences. So I just wanted to cover a couple of quick things, and then I know you have a packed agenda here. When we are thinking about AI applications, the beauty of SQL is that it can bring both structured and unstructured data, which a lot of the other databases cannot do. We have built this engine over the last few decades with the T-SQL familiarity that you have, the scale you have. So now you can bring questions like, find me the product that is best for winter in the price range that I'm looking for. So you can do both semantic search as well as natural language SQL in a natural language kind of interface with your database. So that's the kind of difference, and I think the differentiation we are bringing, and I think that's great. So just want to show you quickly, we built this chatbot. We're showing this later in the sessions as well. It's based on the sessions for this conference, and as you can see, there's a lot of data about the conference-related speakers and abstracts, and it's also using the new JSON type. So we have that. And then in the app itself, it's a .NET app using semantic kernel as a background. We can actually ask questions with natural language that can be translated into a query. And the bot will actually do the orchestration to figure out when to do natural language to SQL, and part of that SQL needs to be semantic search or not. So it's very kind of clever and goes into that. The demo and everything is available on the tech blog. Definitely check it out. The code is also available in the AKMS SQL AI samples. And please share any feedback. If you are building AI applications, thinking about building AI applications, or just in the initial phase of doing some evaluations, please reach out to us.
Cool. This is awesome. Well, thanks so much, Muazma. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, Rena.
Awesome. Thank you to Muazma. And if you want to learn more about AI, which I think everybody does, Muazma and team have a session. I can't do dates. Is that Thursday or Friday? Friday. So come Friday and check out their session. Also on Friday, if you want to wake up early with Muazma and myself and the SQL LT, we will be doing the breakfast session. So definitely, if you haven't attended those, the breakfast is really good. The company's all right, but check it out. All right, so next we're going to move on. Again, like the way this works is we go through all the different areas in SQL Server and Azure SQL. You'll see how many that is. But for this, I'm going to bring up Erin Stellato, who runs the SSMS from the PM side. So welcome, Erin.
It's a Mac.
It is, I'm
sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
So on the tooling side, we'll have a tool slide and developer slide. They kind of all merge together. But on a tools side, we've done a lot of things in SSMS, which we'll talk about. But I also wanted to make sure we called out the preview of SDK-style SQL projects in Visual Studio. This has been something we've been working on for a while, and we're trying to bring SDK-style SQL projects to GA soon. So please check it out. Give us your feedback. If you haven't checked these out before, we also have them in VS Code and Azure Data Studio. Let's see. Oh, MS SQL. I've got a demo for that a little bit later. and then you wrote a blog on how to use the debugger.
I did. Not to maybe start with the not so great news, but if you went to the keynote, you saw that we're bringing dark mode to SSMS, which has been a longstanding request. I'll tell you right now, there's no plans to do that for the debugger, so we'll just get that out of the way. No offense, please don't ask me about it. I've given instructions for how to do it in SSDT, and that's where we're going to leave it for now. So thank you for your understanding. But with regard to 21 and the Preview 1 release, it is not available today, and I know that some folks are a little grumbly about that, and I understand that. We don't truly control the timing of releasing SSMS anymore like we used to, because we are now really part of the Visual Studio family. This is the shift from using the ISO shell up to Visual Studio 2022, and so we now align with when Visual Studio ships. So I don't have entire control, which as a control freak is a little challenging, but that's okay, we're gonna run with it. SSMS will now be installed through the Visual Studio installer. That's a separate app. It doesn't mean that you have to have Visual Studio installed, right? So they don't install in the same place. SSMS is not an extension within Visual Studio. It's still its own standalone app as it always has been. And of course, now we get to 64-bit. With the move to 2022 of Visual Studio, and you might have noticed a really quick glimpse of the Git integration. So that just naturally came along with going to Visual Studio 2022. We were quite happy to keep it in there, as that has been one of the most requested things from the community, along with 64-bit, along with the modern installer, along with updates within the application. So those are all things that you all have asked for. We're happy to bring them into 21. There's also a host of query editor improvements that we get. I showed off a couple of those, the vertical tabs. There's a whole set of other ones that, again, we just kind of pick up. And then one of the requests is improved parity between SQL Server and Azure SQL. So if you've ever tried to create a login or a user in SSMS, you know that it just generates a script for you, which isn't fantastic. And so now we've brought UI support for that as well. There's still some stuff that needs to be finished there. Again, we're talking about Preview 1, and we've typically had 2, maybe 3 previews before. We will now have multiple previews.
Is every preview going to be as epic as this one?
That's a great question.
It's a high bar.
Yeah, it's a high bar. We came out of the gate really strong. They'll continue to be solid, but we're not going to have as many new things moving forward. So these continuous previews allow us to, one, improve the Azure authentication experience. So we'll be picking some stuff up from Visual Studio for that, and that's actually already in Preview 1. It just hasn't propagated across all of those places where we authenticate. And we will have extension support. What that means initially is that we have parity with what we have in SSMS 20, meaning you can create your extension. It does have to be 64-bit. You can install it and all of that. What we don't have yet is the way to find an extension within SSMS or to go to the marketplace or any of that, but that will come. That will take longer. I've mentioned Visual Studio multiple times already. We're having to integrate with them on a lot of levels, and there are some pieces that really take a village. And it's a great village, but the village is really busy. We'll also bring a new connection experience. Those of you who are tired of having to find the database option on another tab, we'll bring that to the front. We'll bring the ability to copy a connection string, paste in a connection string. That will be available in subsequent previews. Dark theme, which we showed off a little bit this morning. We're starting with what folks use the most. So you're in the editor, you're in Object Explorer, you might be in Template Explorer, right? All of that starts out in dark mode. It's going to take time to bring that to every single dialog. And it was the choice of do dark mode all at once and do nothing else, only do what we've been doing and not do dark mode and continue to get asked about it, which we understand its importance, or do both and bring in dark mode over time. That was a suggestion from the community. So we heard that and we thought, all right, we'll do that. So again, over multiple releases, we'll get there. We are also going to work to bring ARM64 support to SSMS. That will also take some time. We've rebuilt SSMS from the ground up for this release. It requires even more work additional work for ARM64. And then, of course, you saw Copilot, which just starts in a private preview. There's a lot that we want to do there, and so we're being very deliberate and thoughtful about how we move forward with that.
Awesome.
Take a breath.
This is great. I'm so excited. I know everyone's really excited. You heard everyone say their favorite thing from the keynote was
I
dark
did catch
mode,
that, yeah.
So yeah, thanks so much.
No problem. I think we're good, yeah?
I think we're good, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Erin. If you want to learn more about the Copilot in SSMS, Erin, Bob, and myself later today are going to be talking all about it and showing you our favorite things from Copilot in SSMS. We had to name this a little bit vague, but that's really the topic we'll be covering. Also, Erin's part of a learning path. I think we're going to talk about it a little bit more later. So lots of opportunities to catch us. The one thing I wanted to show you all real quickly is that we are investing in the MS SQL extension in VS Code. So if you're using VS Code today and you've seen the MS SQL extension before, you probably have notes for us. So we have been working on it. I just wanted to show you some of the things that we released. Now currently you have to enable these preview experiences. We're working on just validating them out. Some things you see that we've added include a new connection dialog. If you used the one before, this is a huge step up for us. So we're trying to address the requests from folks who told us, we just want to stay in VS Code. Like Azure Data Studio is cool, but like we actually want to stay in VS Code sometimes. So can you bring some of those things to VS Code? So that's what we're trying to do. We have a lot of things that we have planned, but just to highlight a couple things there that you can take a look at include now like saving your connection profile. A lot of things, again, that you probably seem familiar to what you've seen in Azure Data Studio as well. Another thing that I just wanted to show you that we have here, I'm talking too fast, is just the ability to filter. So now let's say you've got a gazillion tables, you can start to filter based on the name or the schema or other items, and then you can easily kind of cancel those filters or see that you have filtered so you're not missing tables or anything like that. Now if you take a look, a big thing for us, and folks who don't use Visual Studio before wouldn't notice this, but like our results pane used to be on the right-hand side. We got a lot of feedback like, hey, that's not where we want it on the bottom. So now we're doing that, adding things like sorting capabilities and other things. So there's a couple other things that we've been working on here, but the call to action really is like if you're in VS Code, go ahead, give this an upgrade if you're using the MS SQL extension, and let us know what else you want to see while you're in VS Code. Here you can see we have query plans as well and a table designer. All right, I'm going to move on and talk about some developer things that have been going on. One is dev containers, and I know that might not really be this audience. Anyone using dev containers? A couple people. OK, well, if you're into containers, we now have some custom ones for Azure SQL Database. There's one that includes the Data API Builder, and they're really great for getting started and if you're using container experiences. The highlight I want to call out here is regex in Azure SQL Database Private Preview. Anyone ever wanted this? Since 2005. Folks have been asking for this for a while. This is in private preview, so I believe there's some blogs on it, and you should check the news as we go forward this year. The other thing I'll call out here is DB Watcher, or Database Watcher, that allows you to monitor all your PaaS databases in a much easier way. So a lot of things to check out in the blog. All right, next we're going to move right on to SQL Server on Linux, and I'm going to bring up Amit to tell us what's new.
Thank you so much. I think that person and me, we are in one team, because he was the only person for raising for containers. Anyways, so I'm probably the only PM working in Microsoft who has an engineering team, not just in Microsoft, but across all the partner ecosystems as well. So glad to bring some of the changes from there. So what you'd see this year, our focus with partners like Red Hat, SUSE, and Canonical, and others was very specifically to integrate SQL Server very closely with the operating system and the security enhancements that come with the operating system. One such thing is the SE Linux, the security enhanced Linux. And SQL Server now has the ability to run as a confined application on SE Linux enabled Red Hat systems. What does that mean? That basically means that if you have SQL Server that you would want to restrict access as a process to only specific folders, files, ports, you can now do this with SQL Server, starting SQL Server 22. Of course, this is not going to be backported to 2019. This is a very specific feature with 2022. Next, what we've done, we've also started working on bringing SQL Server very close to some of the automation platforms like Ansible. If you're using Red Hat and you're using Stratus, or you're using any of the insights sort of tools that kind of give you reporting for your OS, now that will also work for SQL Server. So in a single pane, you can now not just get the recommendations for OS, but you can also get recommendations for SQL Server, which means you can now monitor, configure your databases through your OS-related utilities that you would use in the Linux world. Now, while we've been doing a lot of things with Ansible and Stratus and Insights on the VM side of the world, we also want to bring containers and make containers easier to deploy, to work with. If you are a developer, you want to run this in your QA dev environments, you want to run some sort of a testing, we want to make containers the default option there. And to do that, we worked with our partner, such as DH2I, to bring an operator. And this operator is now GA. This operator is developed, maintained, supported by DH2I, and all the SQL Server components inside it is completely, fully supported by Microsoft. So now you can use this operator to just go ahead and install or deploy containers. Can anyone take a guess how long does it take to deploy about 5 containers, add them in an availability group on an Azure Kubernetes service? Can anyone take a guess how long this entire process would take? You are deploying 5 containers on an Azure Kubernetes service, configuring availability group replica across all the 5, and ensuring that you can failover databases from one container to the other. How long would you think? 60 seconds, less than 60 seconds. You can actually go in about 45 seconds, you can have an entire SQL Server instance, 5 instances up and running with availability group configured, and the amount of commands you would run are 5 lines of code. 1, to create the Kubernetes service. The second, to deploy SQL Server containers on top of it. Second, to install the operator. Third, to deploy the operator. Fourth, deploying SQL Server. And fifth is the configuration of availability group. All of this in less than 5 minutes. That's all that it basically takes. So this is how easy we are making it for SQL Server deployments on containers on your choice of Kubernetes. So if this was AKS or any other Kubernetes service, could be something on-prem, you could just go ahead and use that as well. With that, we've worked with our partners like SUSE, and we've brought DH2I closer to them to ensure that the operator is also available on Rancher Marketplace. So Rancher is the utility to configure and manage your Kubernetes clusters. So you can also use Rancher to deploy SQL Server with availability groups. Finally, one more important information that I wanted to share is about the EKM support, the extended key manageability support. For SQL Server on Linux, this was not available until SQL 22 CU14. Starting CU14 that was released earlier this year, now you have the ability to integrate Azure Key Vault service with SQL Server on Linux. So now you can use your keys, you can store them outside of SQL Server in the Azure Key Vault with the integration with starting SQL 22 CU14. Finally, one of our most downloaded tool that most of our customers who today deploy SQL Server in production environments, and I'm talking about the biggest banks, biggest health services, energy sector customers that you can think of, based out of US, most of them had one specific request, was to make Active Directory integration easier with SQL Server on Linux. We listened to that feedback, and I'm glad to say that now we have the AD util, which is a tool that's available to help you integrate SQL Server Active Directory authentication on Linux on your Windows environment. So you can have a Windows level Active Directory running, and you can have your SQL Server on Linux, let's say on a Red Hat or on a SLES or on a canonical based boxes, and you can immediately integrate that with Active Directory, again in less than 3 commands. So it's easy, simple, not complicated, out of the box, it just works. So that has been some of our key developments. But of course, if you need to know or need to see all of this in action, please join us today at 3:30, where we show you the operator, we show you the Active Directory authentication, and we show you the Azure Key Vault integration as well. So looking forward to seeing you all there.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Amit. One of the coolest things I've seen here is you can use this operator to create an availability group across a container, a SQL Server on Linux, and a SQL Server on Windows, right? It was very cool to see this in the failover tab, and so very cool. I'm sure if you find Amit, he can show you how that works. All right, we are going to move right along, so just taking a breath, what have you seen? You've seen Azure SQL Database, AI, you've seen tools, developer, SQL Server on Linux, and now we're moving to Azure SQL Managed Instance. So for that, we have a couple people coming up, and one of those is Niko. Niko's starting his timer. Not yet. I said when you get up here. But there's a lot that the Azure SQL Managed Instance team has been working on. A couple things that are exciting to me include the instance pools refresh, because this has been around for a while, and now we're doing a refresh. But yeah, what's exciting to you?
All right. Starting the timer as requested. So, I mean, we love all of our released features, and we're very much excited on what's coming next. But, you know, let's take a review of what was just recently. Right. So, I'm shocked to see instance pools because it's such a popular option, right? It's been in preview. I guess that we hit some record, at least for our product, of spending the most time in the preview. And customers were actually asking, like, are you doing something with them? Is there a usage for them? Is there a scenario? Well, did you know that, by the way, the minimum vCore size for deploying a managed instance as a standalone offer is 4 CPU vCores. And if you want to go smaller, and 2 CPU vCores is by far and large the most popular offer in the public clouds, across all of the public clouds, because there are a lot of small installation. The only way to have it is to have the instance pools. In this virtualization provisioning option, we allow you to provision it. And then there is a small catch. You can see it on your screens. If you are provisioning 2 CPU vCore SQL in instance pools, by default, compared to SQL VM running 2 CPU vCores and pay-as-you-go, we are cheaper. Why do I know it? Because we sell the CPU vCores, as some of you should know, in 4 packs. So even if you are running 2 CPU vCore, on-prem, whatever, you should be paying 4 CPU vCore license. And on PaaS, on SQL database, on SQL MI, we charge you whatever you consume. So just check it out. It's a minor detail, might save you huge amounts of money. Then, what did we do? We haven't slept for a long time. Oh. We delivered a refresh, a major refresh. Earlier this year, we added all the new stop options, like 6 cores, 10 cores, so you can scale really, like you don't have to do the big jumps. New hardware, moving pools, moving instances in and outside of the pools, the newest hardware generation we're doing with our partners, and, like, drum roll, if you are provisioning an instance inside an instance pool, because it's a virtualization options, the provisioning is under 5 minutes, and people still somehow do not know about it. So,
compared to how long? I'm just kidding.
I think it's kind of a booing, isn't it? Anyway, I'll throw you one thing back. We have something documented, but check out our documentation this month. Who knows what happened, how much we are about to update it. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I have no idea.
They don't tell you anything.
Oh, of course not. There. Anyway, so just to tell you, we're very close to GA, really close, closer than you might think, and we're bringing the reserved instances there. Then, next, the Project Hermes. Did you know that we brought the new generation of the general purpose service tier? And we have expanded it quite a lot. I mean, you can see all the numbers, and you can see that we decreased the latency, we increased the IOPS to quite unreasonable number, we increased the storage from 16 to 32 terabytes for a single managed instance, and my favorite part is we increased the density from 100 to 500 database per single instance. Check out any other competitors providing you with more than 100 databases on a single instance, just checking. So all of this, and what is really worth mentioning is the IOPS slider. So once you enable the next generation of the general purpose on SQLMI, you can go and use a slider to increase your IOPS throughput. And we are charging very, very low premium on that. So then I said 3 features, right? Should be there some. Oh, yes, the free. Or we call it freemium. I was told not to say the word, the freemium, but I just.
But here you are.
I did. I think I did. So anyway, so freemium or free SQLMI, you can run for a year 4 or 8 CPU vCore managed instance for free.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we're supporting a couple of subscriptions, but we're not finalized there. So check out. Maybe your subscription already now supports running a free SQLMI. Maybe it's, in a matter of, I don't know, minutes, hours, days, weeks, whatever. So it's coming at you. And I heard that there are more things that will make customers happy, especially with freemium. Who knows?
Okay.
Next time on Data
Stay
Expo.
tuned, yeah. Great, awesome. Thanks so much, Niko. We're going to continue by sharing a little bit more updates on the Azure SQL Managed Instance side and migrations, but to do that, I'm going to bring up Dani. Thanks, Dani.
Hi everyone, I'm Dani. I'm also a product manager at SQL Managed Instance team. A couple of announcements from me. One is the GA of the disaster recovery between SQL Server 2022 and Managed Instance. This is a feature known as MI Link.
This just went GA.
Just went GA, yes. So there are a couple of updates here. Now you can create the link starting from MI as a primary to SQL Server as a secondary. Previously, it was just SQL Server primary to MI secondary, so it now works both ways. We have improved SSMS interface for this experience and simplified the failover command to a single T-SQL if you like using T-SQL, and made improvements to PowerShell and CLI. So check it out. This is finally GA, and you can use it. So really happy about this coming. Another thing is now, because of the data mobility that we've established between SQL Server 2022 and SQL Managed Instance, any managed instance provision today is SQL 2022 compatible by default. However, what happens with the future upcoming features, right? So now we have an option in Managed Instance. You can flip a switch, and you can choose if you want to update your instance to always up to date, and that instance will get the new engine features. So both tiers, so both options, SQL Server 2022 default and always up to date, will always get the platform updates. It's just that 2022 default version will not get new engine updates, and always up to date will. So with always up to date, what do you get? You get all the latest and greatest stuff. So if you upgrade your managed instance to that, the default compat level jumps to 160, some intelligent query processing improvements, optimized locking, JSON, regex, vector support, fabric mirroring, all the good stuff is coming if you choose that option. However, there is a caveat. Once you upgrade to a higher version, you cannot go back. So be aware of that.
All
Anna,
right, yeah.
up to you.
Yeah, I'm going to keep you up here because you got a cool demo for us,
Sure.
but we're going to move ahead and just give a brief overview on what's happened in the migration space this year. Now, there's a lot of things listed here. You can learn all about them in the blog. A couple things that Dani's going to show us. But one thing I wanted to highlight is some of the investments we've made in SSMA. So if you're trying to migrate from not SQL to SQL, you can check that out. The other thing that we have been working on is really improving our DMS service, or database migration service, and our Azure Migrate service. So making it so that you can do it from all within a browser is something we're trying to enable, but we've also been investing in a couple of the extensions in Azure Data Studio. But you have something your team has been working on. Let's take a look.
Yeah, something we've been working on. This is not yet released, but we have decided actually to announce it. So today you can use database migration service to migrate from on-prem or other clouds to Azure. And in parallel to that, we have looked at how we actually do the migration today, and you actually need to go to a couple of tools to do that. So you need to go run assessment in one tool, and then you need to provision maybe through scripts, or to go to a web browser, and then to migrate you need to DMS. So it's kind of like these different tools you need to use to complete the migration experience. So we're thinking how to actually improve that, and with the Arc-enabled SQL servers. So for those who actually opt in to use Arc-enabled SQL servers, we're building in an integrated experience where everything will be seamlessly connected together in a single place. So from a single place from a web browser, you would be able to do that. And to start with that, I will show you a quick demo. It's just 1 minute and 40. I'm aware of the time. So here's the demo. Basically has all the steps of the assessment of the migration journey at the top. We start with the assessment. We see that on-prem SQL Server is capable of migrating to these 3 destinations. It will show the warnings or things you need to correct. So in this particular case, I'm having here Developer Edition SQL Server 2022 that I'm testing this with. Then provisioning from the same place. Here is, Niko mentioned, free MI. So here's where you can maybe try a free MI that you want to migrate to if you're testing things out, or if you remove the free offer, then you get the paid version. Then you start the migration. The really cool thing about it is that we're integrating 2 migration tools in here. So Managed Instance Link for near real-time replication and Log Replay Service, which is essentially log shipping. So these are the 2 main tools that we have, but we're putting them in the single experience. Within this, I would just pick the the migration tool that I'd like. I pick a database, click through the interface, and then in this instance, we're creating a my link for near real-time replication. And that's all within a single place, so I'm not leaving this experience. So once these migrations have been started, I can monitor them. I can see them here. We see it's a link to Azure SQL Managed Instance. I can watch the health state of that link. I can run it for as long as I need it to replicate. And then when I'm ready, I just select the databases that I want to migrate and then perform the cutover. So this be the goodness of it. And then call to action, we'd really be happy to hear back from you. So anyone interested in learning more about this experience, please follow the link or take a snap of the QR code, and we'll be happy to work with you. Thank you.
Awesome. It's super cool to see that sneak peek, so thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Thanks for coming on the show. One of the things I like about this migration experience, as you click through it, Dani, and what folks might be familiar with, is that we're leveraging the same patterns that we've been leveraging in our migration tools. So this isn't like a whole new thing you have to learn or a whole new process you have to follow. Like if you were using DMA, or if you're using the extension in Azure Data Studio, or if you're using the tool in the Azure portal, like it's the same general steps, and we let you do it the way that you've given feedback you want to. Quick shout out, if you're looking into the migration space or looking at Azure, your company's looking at Azure, the team is doing a learning pathway here at PASS. There's 4 sessions. That QR code will give you all the details of the ak.ms link. As you can see, it's a star-studded group of speakers. It's got 4 sessions in it. These are the sessions. Some of them you can catch today, starting right after this, and then some of them also continue into tomorrow. In addition to that, the team, as well as someone from Intel, have a session on accelerating your modernization journey, and this talks about Arc, migrations, and SQL Managed Instance, along with SQL VM. So please check out the sessions or come find us at the booth. We are going to move right along into SQL Server and Azure VMs, and for that, I'm going to bring up Lance Wright. Lance, welcome.
Yeah. How's it going, Anna?
It's going well, yeah.
Right,
How do you think it's going?
It's been a jam-packed session, lots of really cool announcements. So, I'm happy to be up here on the stage to talk about Azure SQL VM.
Awesome.
And I'll also be talking about Arc-enabled SQL Server. But yeah, these are some of the things that we've released over this past year. What stood out to you when you're kind of looking over all the release announcements?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that's been really interesting to me is to see kind of a little bit of a convergence of the IaaS extension for Azure VMs and the Azure Arc experiences that you get. Maybe that wasn't what you were asking, but
yeah.
That's been a cool thing to see, and I know like the teams are almost the same team, so it makes sense that that's what we're
Yeah, absolutely. Like we're definitely SQL Server in Azure, SQL Server outside of Azure. It's the same thing, right? At the end of the day, and yeah, that's definitely an intentional exercise that we're going through to start to converge the not only the extensions, but also obviously the capabilities and features that come along with that. So I think in the coming months and years, you'll start to see the lines get a little blurry and maybe get erased. So
cool.
But
what have been the exciting updates to you?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the 3 that I want to call out here today, did want to give a heads up about automated patching that's being retired. We do have a new I/O analysis tool that we announced to public preview earlier this year. And then we do have a new compute optimized SKU of Azure VMs I want to talk about. But we definitely have a lot of really cool work that's been going on this year, and would encourage everyone to kind of check it out. But first, kind of start with maybe some bad news. I don't know.
I don't think it's bad.
I don't think it's
Azure Update
bad,
Manager
right?
is so awesome.
Right. That's what I think too. So automated patching, we did just announce the retirement of it. It is on a 3-year retirement plan, so that retirement will be in 2027. Seems like a long ways away, but time goes quickly. And we are encouraging customers to check out Azure Update Manager. It is awesome, as Anna suggested.
Can you call out like the big differences that people should know?
I would say like one big thing that Azure Update Manager can help you out with is cluster-aware patching. That's definitely a key customer ask that our customers have. So would definitely encourage people to check it out. And as you kind of see at the bottom there, it's actually included for Azure SQL VMs, so there's no additional cost. So definitely encourage anyone to start checking that out. Secondly, one thing I want to call out is we have a new IOPS throttling analysis tool that, like I said, went to public preview earlier this year. And as the name suggests, its goal is to help you easily identify issues with your IOPS and throughput. And basically what it does there is it takes a sample every 30 seconds, and anytime that it sees 500 milliseconds or more of disk latency in a 5-minute window, is going to tell you 3 things. It's going to tell you the resources that got throttled. It's going to give you a bunch of performance metrics in this dashboard here, and it's going to give you that root cause analysis with mitigation steps to reduce that throttling.
Guessing I could also like set up alerts based on this.
Absolutely, yes. And then the other cool thing here, I don't have a screenshot of it, but there's a tab there at the top that says Disk Configuration Best Practices. That's effectively kind of a subset of all of the SQL best practice assessment recommendations that are tailored specifically for disk configuration. So we're here to help you not only identify when throttling occurs, but also know what the best practices are to help you avoid it going forward. And then the last thing that I'll touch on, it's recently gone to public preview. We do have a new VX-V2 VM series. These are compute optimized VMs to help you with data processing, complex operations, intense analytics, and things like that. And there's kind of 2 main categories. Over on the left is the compute optimized VX-V2 series, and over on the right, it's compute and storage optimized VX-DV2 series. And you can see all kinds of really impressive numbers here. I did want to call out, there are some fire icons on the screen. I just want to be clear.
Those machines are on fire.
They won't
They're
actually
smoking.
cause a fire, but your workloads will be cooking on these new SKUs. So definitely encourage everyone to check it out. So.
I love it. I have one question for you
Yeah,
on
go
that.
for it.
So over the years, people have been following Data Exposed and following what we're doing in the VM space.
Yeah.
People might remember Pamela Hood used to talk about the EBDS V5 double sprinkles
That was impressive.
series.
Yeah.
I got it. I've heard about it a lot. Other people, I'm sure, have heard of. Is Pam? Pam's probably here.
She's here, yes.
Pam's here. So, is this the new double sprinkles VM, or is it a triple sprinkles VM, or like
Triple
are there
sprinkles?
scenarios where I still use the other?
Well,
one?
now we're also talking about warlocks and wizards,
Oh.
and if you've heard David Pless, also prominent PM in the VM space, he'll talk about those. But yeah, effectively, this is kind of the new double sprinkles offering that
Amazing.
we have for
We'll
our
get
customers.
you the little icon that Pam used to use.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, and then that's all I have for SQL VM. If you'll permit me, I'll talk about SQL
let's
Server
continue.
on
We
Arc.
talked about this convergence, so let's take a look at
We
what's
did,
new
we
this
did.
year.
Yeah, and if you all attended the keynote, you heard Shirish talk a lot about Azure Arc and kind of the migrations and modernization story of his keynote. And I just wanted to take, before we get into kind of what's new with Arc on SQL Server, I did want to take a half step back because Azure Arc is really new to the SQL portfolio. It's only been in GA for about 3 years, but we're seeing a really great adoption with our customers. I just want to talk for a minute about what is Arc-enabled SQL Server. And really the short answer is Azure Arc is effectively a platform to help you connect, manage, maintain, optimize your IT infrastructure and data workloads that are outside of Azure. So these can be data workloads that are on-prem in your data center at edge locations like Shirish talked about earlier, or even in other clouds like AWS and GCP. And once you connect your SQL Server to Azure through Azure Arc, you start to unlock all of these Azure services that you can kind of start to bring to your Arc-enabled SQL estate. So Dani talked about the MI link capabilities. We have all sorts of management capabilities I'll double click into in a little bit. Sharice talked about Purview. You can have secure authentication through Entra ID. And of course, security is always top of mind that we can achieve that through Defender. And if we were to kind of summarize all that into three big things, Sharice mentioned this also, but we're all about helping customers to better manage, enhance their business continuity, and then secure their SQL Server estate regardless of where it's at. So being able to manage, that includes getting a single pane of glass of all your inventory, getting performance dashboards. We have inventory on your AGs and FCIs. You can manage your backups. You can trigger a point-in-time restore from Azure. And then security, centralize all that security with Defender, and also control governance through Purview. So a lot of really cool capabilities. And then these are just some of the things that we've really been driving this year in the Arc-enabled SQL space here. Dani talked a little bit about the migration assessment, so I'll do a double click on that here in just a second. But we do have, like I said, inventory of FCIs and AGs, managing backups at both the instance and the database level. Would definitely encourage anyone that's on SQL 2012 or 2014, if you're looking for extended security updates, there's definitely some cost savings to be had through Arc, so we definitely encourage you to kind of check that out. And then I'll leave here with kind of this last slide to talk about, kind of just do a double click on the migration assessments that Dani just introduced. Effectively what we have going on here is once you Arc enable your SQL Server and you go to the Azure portal, you get a report card, I like to call it, of your SQL Server's readiness to migrate to Azure SQL. So that can be Azure SQL DB, MI, or VM. And it gives you a list of action items to prepare for that migration. It recommends the best fit SKU, and that recommendation does come from kind of measuring your SQL Server's data workloads over a 30-day period, so it is going to be an accurate recommendation. And the best part is you actually don't need to configure anything. It's enabled by default. Nice. Once you Arc enable your SQL Server, this will not only give you the inventory of your SQL estate, but it's going to give you those migration assessments. And the last bullet point here is it's free. I don't know the last time I got something for free. So for anyone that's considering some migration projects, I would definitely encourage you to give Arc-enabled SQL Server a look. And you even saw a glimpse into the future with Dani of helping to streamline your migrations to Azure. And I think with that,
awesome.
I'll leave it to you.
Thanks so much, Lance. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, you guys still with us? Yes. I was like, oh, we're not with us. Okay. Should we stand up and do some stretching? It's a lot of updates, right? You can tell this is a big team, and we've been doing a lot of updates this year. One call out I'll say is if you want to learn more about hybrid workloads from the SQL folks, Nikita is going to be doing a breakout session tomorrow, so you can check that out. All right, we're going to move into SQL Server. I don't have a ton of details here of the things that happened, but there were a couple things I did want to call out. Obviously, there's been several CUs. Some of those are security updates, so go check for whatever you're running and make sure you have the latest CU, especially if it's a security update. We've done some things for SCOM. SQL Server 2014, no one's using that, right? Anyone? Oh, you guys are on 2005? Oh, no, just kidding. But, hopefully you're not on 2005. But 2014 reached end of support. Lance talked about there are some options for you in Azure if you want to get extended security updates. But really think about learning. Hopefully you're here learning about some of the investments in SQL Server and are considering upgrading. Retirement of SQL Server stretch database. Don't want to spend a lot of time here, but just let you guys know that that happened. So if you were using it or are using it, you probably shouldn't have been using it, but anyways, it's retired now, or we announced retirement. All right, we are going to move on, and I'm going to bring up Patrick LeBlanc, and we're going to talk about Fabric. Is anyone using Fabric here?
Nope, never heard of it.
No one's heard of it. Should you sit down?
I probably should just go sit down.
I didn't mean it. Even if they don't know Fabric, they know you.
I probably should go sit down.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Okay, so oh yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Right.
I was thinking you were going to sit down.
I was going to sit down.
But no, I'm serious. I'm happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Do you guys heard of Fabric? Anybody heard of Fabric?
Now they're just trolling you.
Yeah, this is being mean. So if you're using tools like SSIS and SSRS and SQL Server, for your warehouse, you can replace all that with Fabric now. You don't need any, all these SQL Server stuff they're talking about. You don't need that stuff anymore.
Wait a second.
We have SQL
now
endpoints.
I'm going to make you sit down.
I kid. But it integrates with it. And we had a great year. Fabric was announced, I don't know, at Microsoft Build, and it's truly game changing, and it's remarkable because imagine when you set up your data warehouses in the past, you install SQL, you install whatever relational database platform. Now you can have a warehouse in just a couple of clicks. So it's pretty amazing.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what are some of the things that, I know from the SQL perspective, like one of the exciting announcements we've been talking about is mirroring, right?
Yeah,
we have mirroring for Azure SQL Database, and
Cosmos,
we're working on it for
Databricks
and other things.
Snowflake, and there's so many other things. And so as an ETL developer, I did ETL for many years, extract data, transform data, load data. Imagine using a tool like database mirroring, and there's zero ETL. You just point it to your SQL database or your Cosmos database or your Databricks or your Snowflake, and it automatically will replicate that data over. It even replicates schema changes. So if I drop a table, if I add a column, it'll replicate that schema change and automatically update that table for you.
So I can mirror the data, I don't have to move it, and then
yeah.
I can start to take advantage of everything.
The data right there,
Yeah.
right. So there's one thing in Fabric that, if you use Power BI, how many people use Power BI? Somebody in here has got to use, yeah, of course, right? And so people complain about copying that data. So I take my data out of the source and I replicate that data into an import model. Now you can point directly to it. That's one of the key features in Fabric. We introduced a new storage mode called Direct Lake. So instead of us taking the data out of your source, running our compression algorithms on it, doing some transcoding to get it in memory, we went from the analysis services engine doing it to using Delta Parquet files in the form of Delta, because they already are column-based format, and it does similar type of compression that we do with analysis services. And now the only thing we need to do to access that data is a little transcoding, and we have these global dictionaries and stuff that we need to map back to. But we just need to transcode that data and bring that data into memory, and it's almost instantaneous. So think about how SQL Server works with data, right? It brings data into memory when you issue a query against it. Well, now the same thing with the analysis services engine. When a DAX query is issued, it triggers that activity to bring that data into memery.
Cool.
But it's a little smarter than SQL because it actually gives the data back.
Wow.
Where SQL Server struggles.
Smarter
I
than
kid.
SQL.
I kid.
Come
I
on.
kid. I kid.
Being
I
booed
kid.
off stage,
I kid.
Patrick.
I kid. I kid.
No, I know I want to get to some updates, but I did want to first just call out you're running this thing called a Power
The Power Hour. They mentioned it in the keynote this morning.
Amazing.
It's at the same time as Bob and Xana's session, so you may want to skip their session and come to the Power Hour.
No, it's
Yeah.
the same time.
It's at the same time.
All right, folks, choose wisely.
So you got to choose what's going on. So it's a good session. It's probably one of the staples at most of the conferences that we hold. If you want a seat, you need to get there early because it usually sells out pretty quickly.
They're so fun.
Yeah, and you don't learn anything. I will say, last year Anna and Bob did or that was just a couple of months ago, they did a spot at the Power Hour. Probably one of the best ones I've seen. I'm not just saying that because you're standing here, but it was probably one of the best. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Bob brought on the Bob Copilot.
The Bob Copilot.
Man, it was bad.
Yeah,
it was bad, you guys.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
I don't think Bob understands machine learning too well.
No.
Anyway, and saying that, I have a session with Bob.
You're really on a roll here.
I am on a roll. Bob and I are going to talk about Fabric and SQL together and how great it is. So it really is remarkable how they play well together.
Cool.
But it's not just SQL that Fabric plays well together with. It plays well together with a lot
All
of
right,
great
so what's
teams.
new? I'm hoping that's the next slide.
There's so many things, right? There's so many things that's new. And I started out with Copilot because we have Copilot everywhere. You don't even have to write SQL anymore. You don't have to go join, group by. You don't have to do that stuff. Just ask Copilot to do it for you. You can even get Copilot to create reports for you. Are they the best reports? Probably not, but a great starting point.
It's a great starting point.
Yeah.
Way better designed than anything I could do.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I don't design reports. But what is interesting is you can play a data scientist, because now Copilot will generate Python and all these regression algorithms and all this stuff for you simply by giving it the right prompt. So that's nice. And then database mirroring. We already talked about database mirroring. I'm super excited about it because I hate building all these ETL jobs. We have this new copy item in Azure Data Factory that actually allows you to do incremental loading from text files. So imagine that. So if you think about the process that you did before, you had a text file, you dropped it in some directory, and then you had to archive it off somewhere before you were in your job again. Well, this new copy item in Fabric, it's smart enough to say, hey, you've already copied this one. Don't copy it again. Only copy the new files there. And if you want to see it in action, I have a theater session sometime tomorrow at the Microsoft booth, so come by.
Awesome.
All right? And now you can actually develop semantic models in Power BI Desktop. You could always do it. You could always do it. But now we're actually bringing a full developer experience to Power BI Desktop for everyone that doesn't create reports like me. If you just want to write DAX, because DAX is so easy to write.
Is it?
Yes, it's so
Is that a
simple.
joke?
No, that's serious. It's really simple. It's
Okay.
really simple
All right.
to write. And so you could use this query view to write all your DAX statements. You can add measures. You can manipulate your model directly in the
Is there a
desktop.
Copilot for DAX?
Well, we don't use it because DAX is so easy to write.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, there is a Copilot. There is a Copilot for DAX. It's actually pretty great. And then I think for me, it's our integration and it's our partnership with all of our partners and vendors. If you notice, database mirroring, we mirror from Snowflake, we mirror from Databricks. You can actually write from Databricks directly to Fabric. We're doing more integrations with Snowflake. So it's tremendous. Fabric is game-changing, and it's going to take over the world just like Power BI did. Because everybody forgot about Tableau. Remember that?
What's that?
Yeah, exactly. All right, thank you so much, Anna.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. I'll take the mic, too. Patrick LeBlanc. All right. Okay, that was the updates. Just a couple this year. But I have to tell you guys something, and that is in a couple weeks, we have Microsoft Ignite. And Microsoft really likes to make big announcements at big events. You saw some this morning, but I just have to tell you, if you thought the year in review was over, it's not over. So please, obviously it's sold out, and so you can't come in person, but it's going to be streamed online. Please tune in. The SQL team has some really, really exciting announcements landing at Microsoft Ignite. I cannot say anything else, but it's going to be really exciting. You don't want to miss it. And you don't want to leave this conference and be like, that's everything I need to know for the year. No, you need to tune back into Microsoft Ignite. So I will stop there. For the news update, I want to remind you all, it's not linked to on this screen, but it's aka.ms/newsupdate. And that's where you can find the blog that links to every single thing you heard talked about today. If you forgot or you zoned out about something or you want to share this with your team and say, this is an update I want to look into, like, please just go check out the blog. It'll be there. And what I am going to make a promise for is after Ignite, I will update aka.ms/newsupdate and include the rest of the updates that happened at Ignite. So definitely kind of bookmark that page. A shout out for our show, because we release episodes every Thursday. This year we've done over 60 episodes. Yeah, and it's a thank you to like the SQL team and all of our partners and community who make the show possible, and you all for watching the show, because that means my boss says I can keep doing it. So yeah, so please tune into the show. If you have things that you don't see on the show that you want to see on the show, like find me this week and tell me what you want to see, and we'll go make it happen. I think that's all the slides that I have. So I will say to our live viewers online, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you next time on Data Exposed. Thank you.